Hello, Dr. Karen Can here. Welcome to Light Warrior Radio, and I'm your host. I'm the number one best-selling author of the book Sensitivity is Your Superpower: How to Harness Your Gifts, Fulfill Your Purpose, and Create a Life of Joy. And if you are new to Light Warrior Radio or this channel, I would love, love, love for you to get my free Sensitive Soul Empowerment Guide, the 3 ways of navigating your way to more peace, positivity, and personal power. You can get that at sensitivesoulguide.com. And in there, you'll also be able to join our lay medicine community where we have free monthly mini healings and connections. And, we can request to support each other, heal each other. And today's guest, a very, very special person. In fact, I found about our guest book in a kind of circuitous way. My assistant said, "Oh, do you want to interview this person?" Right? And I look at the book, I look at the title, and I look at the top. I'm like, oh, yeah, for sure. Not even knowing that our beautiful guest, Heidi Connolly, actually had sent me a copy of her book months ago, which somehow has escaped my vision of where it is. And then she saw my book. And anyway, so here we are together. So really happy that Heidi is here. Let me read a little bit about Heidi before we say our official hello. So um, Heidi's husband, Randy, transitioned in 2012, and then she was introduced to her ability to communicate with the other side. So owner of Harvard Girl Word Services for over 20 years, she was shocked when her husband woke up one night and co-authored her award-winning book Crossing the Rubicon, and then she's never looked back since then. And then currently her multidimensional compass is set to practice of mediumship, intuitive coaching, working with highly sensitive people, creating custom music encoded with healing frequencies, and living the life as what Randy calls a vacationing angel. And then during the pandemic, she authored the Gateway Cafe, a novel of visionary fiction, and Elevating Your HSP-ness, a unique guidebook and accompanying video course inspiring highly sensitive people to live glorious lives. And she's known for a lighthearted, authentic charm that guides her in communication with spirit to create powerful, moving experiences for the people who come to see her. As one client says, there is a great gestalt of connection. You come away with a resonance of clarity, ease, calm, wholeness, and lightness. And today we're really going to dive into elevating your HSP-ness, which I highly recommend everybody gets. We'll ask Heidi about where you can get that, learn more about her in a little bit. Without further ado, welcome, Heidi. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited.
Well, thank you. It's really a great pleasure. I admire you tremendously and your work. Yeah, and I think, like I said before, we're traveling this parallel journey, and high sensitivity has become my passion through learning about my mediumship. So that's been the real journey. Before I got on today, I kept hearing the song, the Beatles song, it's The Long and Winding Road. And I thought, yes, it has been a long and winding road, right? From the minute my husband, well, for my whole life, really, coming in as a high sensitive, feeling that I was too much or too little, feeling like a misfit, an alien in an alien world. And so I sort of like I'd been dropped here with very little, maybe a granola bar, right, in the whole scope of things, and said, here you go, just exist. And until I met my husband, I never felt that I fit in or I could cope. I was very depressed, I was very anxious. No one ever said to me, how do you feel? They said, stop feeling.
Right. Yep, so, heard that.
Yeah. So when Randy died, he was my grounding mechanism. He was my plug into the wall. And I lost all ability to believe that I could live, could survive. And I'm not proud of it, of course, but I have to admit, because I think a lot of people feel this way, that when your plug gets pulled from the wall, you feel that you don't have any resources left. So I really didn't know how to live, let alone thrive. We're not talking about thriving. We're talking about just surviving. It was almost like this, is my life cost effective? Is living worth this? the energy, the misery, the time, the stress?
I've been there,
Or should I
yeah.
just let go?
Yep. Yep.
Right? Should I just say, I've had enough, see you later? And of course, I had people who came and raised me out of that dark night. But it took a lot of work, and I did not understand. I did not understand that high sensitivity was really a doorway into higher levels of conscious awareness. I didn't know that. I didn't understand it. I had read all the books. I had, explored things with my very, very, very interesting, let's just say, eclectic husband who was very sensitive too, but I couldn't apply it. And I think that's where we get into trouble, because the label of high sensitivity is great. When I read about that and I said, oh, that's me, that
Right.
that list is me. I saw one of your videos when you were talking about owning the label, and that's helpful to a degree. But owning the label is saying, I'm owning the disease.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'm owning the problem.
Yeah.
I'm owning this and wearing it. And then we get into a state of victimization and victimhood. So it took a lot of soul searching to come out the other side, but it was with the help of some very courageous people themselves to offer me these abilities on a plate. Do you know you're a medium, Heidi? No, I don't know a medium. I don't believe you. Well, didn't your dead husband wake you up in the middle of the night and write a book with you? Well, yeah, but that doesn't make me a medium. That doesn't mean I have abilities. I mean, I couldn't connect the dots, Karen. I was just so unsure of myself. My self-esteem had pummeled. I had been plunged into despair, right? I was just in no
Mm.
condition. But then everything started to open up. I started to hear from other dead people, and just boom, 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 boom. Talk to this person, talk to that person, help this person. My dead husband said to me one day, start a meetup, an afterlife meetup. And this was several years ago, right? And I said, what's a meetup? I had never heard of such a thing. And I lived in a really tiny town on the coast of Oregon, and nobody had ever heard of a meetup. And so, but I went to the library and I rented a room, and 2 people came, and then 10, and then 20, and 50. And every month, because people want to know, they want to understand the afterlife, but they also want to know who they are, why they're here.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing here?
Yeah,
What is
it's a
our
deep
purpose?
longing, isn't it, for
Wow,
humans?
so deep. And they come in and they look at me and say, well, what does this mean that I've experienced? What does that mean? The church told me this. My parents told me that. Society told me this. I saw spirit when I was young. I don't know what to do about it. All these questions. And I certainly don't have all the answers, but I can help people understand their process and help them understand these gifts that they have, because
Mm-hmm.
they're huge gifts if you know how to use them and apply them.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah, because
Okay?
if we don't, sometimes they can hamper our abilities just to make it through the day, being highly sensitive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as I go through my day, I'm constantly saying to myself, am I in alignment? If I'm not, I have a tool to get back in there, and it's changed my life. It's just my daily practice. And it doesn't take
Mm,
any energy, it just takes
mm.
awareness, and it makes me calm and peaceful. And yeah,
I
all
love
that.
it. I
Yes.
love it. That is great. It's funny because it's you probably don't know this, but that's a little bit of a mini private running joke with my staff and even some of my higher level students. I'm like, I can talk to dead people, but I prefer not to. I'm like, okay, I'm just not much of a conversationalist to begin with. I'm like, if I need to know, just like give me the facts and I'm done, right? There's like only like two, or well, maybe more than two, but a few number of instances where at the beginning, where someone's father had passed away, and he was there flickering the lights while we were doing acupuncture. And we, figured out. Now I use divine muscle testing, so it's my little cheat. Just go, what's going on? Who is this? And so we determined that it was, this person's father. And at some point, I said, well, it's probably a great idea. Now, in this case, he was not crossed over fully. This is different from what's going on with you, obviously. But anyway, and I was shocked that the patient said, I'm not ready to let him go. And I was like, okay, now what do I do? It's like, okay, well, she was, I will. It's just, I really miss him. And I just really don't want him to go to the other side just yet. And I said, okay, well, you let me know when you're ready, right? So it wasn't until like I'm in bed like 3 weeks later, and so the lights flicker again, right? And I'm like, this is before I had like a clearing vortex and, let's just say, healthier boundaries. So I'm in bed and I'm like, okay, who's here? What's going on? And it was this person's father. And my husband comes in. I'm like, shh, talking to a ghost right now. And he's like, and he walks out the door. Right? It was so funny. You had to be there. And I'm like, and I'm saying, are you ready to go? Yes. Did did your daughter say it was okay that you go? Yes. I'm like, oh, okay, good. Right. But that was it. Like no complex thing. So I think it's wonderful for people like yourself to be there for people in that way. If you choose to do that, I'm just, don't come to me for that, people. It's
Yeah.
just not my thing.
Well,
But
it's hysterical because at the beginning, you think you're going to be overwhelmed by all these spirits because now they're looking for a channel, right? But right at the beginning, and the fear is you'll be overwhelmed, or if you open the door to your sensitivities, especially if it's psychic or mediumship,
right.
that you'll let in a lot of negative stuff. You won't have any control over it, a word I do not like. But I wrote a spirit contract. So I recommend people do this. And I have a
Nice.
template in my book.
Oh, nice.
And my contract says, here's what I want. I want to be safe and protected. I only want white light beings. I don't want to be woken up in the middle of the night all the time because I need my beauty sleep. So please make it easy for me. So if I'm at the gym and I get a message, most mediums work that they'll see a spirit and then it will relate to a person, like in a big group setting. They'll say, oh, someone named John is here who relates to John. But I usually go to the human first, and I just see someone and I know someone is there. I know someone's mother is there, or father is there. Like I
You
know
know
your
who the
grandmother.
spirit belongs to? Okay.
Yes. So I see you right now and I know your mother's mother is here. Now, we don't have to have a conversation with her, but she's here hanging out. And I'm not clairvoyant. I'm not seeing her like a ghost. I'm seeing her in my mind's eye. And then I'll start getting messages. But my contract says, if you want me to talk to a spirit, if you want me to talk to you, the spirit, make it easy for me. Bring them into my field. And so sure enough, they'll be at the water fountain where I am, or sure enough, they'll be in the parking lot and walk by me. So that's part of my contract. And another part is that I have a gatekeeper. Randy, my good husband, is my gatekeeper.
Nice,
So
nice.
I have a waiting room. And
Yep,
the
yep.
spirits are in the waiting room. And if they want to come through, one at a time, that's my rule, one at a time.
Good. I
So
love that.
yes, and it makes it so easy because I never experience negative energy in my work. I don't ask for it, it's not there. Plus, the tool I have of this is my most powerful tool is the psychic octopus. And when you reel in your psychic tentacles and you're just in there, and I made this little drawing, so this is kind of hysterical.
Oh, yes,
I don't know if you
it's a
can see it, but there's my little,
Oh, okay.
it's my little octopus.
I love it.
Yeah, he's so.
So the tentacles are kind of like coming back to us, like kind of,
Yes,
okay. So they're not out everywhere.
exactly, because highly sensitive means you're empathetic, you're
Right.
compassionate, you're sensitive, right? We're literally the ones who are handling the problems of the world through our compassion. But we
Correct.
also are taking on the energies of everyone around us. And most highly sensitive people believe that that's what gives them the ability to
Oh,
understand people. I
okay,
feel
okay.
what you're feeling.
Gotcha.
So I not only understand what you're feeling, which is fine, but I feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm feeling it. I'm not, I'm literally feeling Karen. You're angry, I feel that. You're upset, I feel that. I was going for a degree in social work when I realized I would burn out in a day and a half.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you reel in your psychic octopus
Mm.
consciously, you are become in alignment with your own energy, which I have another tool called the unique energetic signature.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was going to
So
ask you
you're,
about that.
yeah, it's so wonderful. You're in there, you're home.
Yes.
Then if you're
I call
out,
it the home frequency. Yeah.
yes, you do. I loved that. I love the home frequency idea because that's exactly how it feels. You feel like you're in there. If you go out, I'm on an airplane, I start to sneeze, I start to cough. Those are indicators that my octopus is out.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my physical indicators, I choke, I cough, I sneeze,
Okay,
my
okay.
eyes, they're all, could be allergies, could be illness. No, my octopus is out. I reel it all in, which just takes no energy. So
Right.
I'm not blocking out things.
Right. Right.
That takes a lot of energy from me. That idea of I have to be free from, I have to block out, I have to put up a wall. That takes, it almost feels like I'm constructing.
Right, right, and actually, yeah, I mean, that's why sometimes the languaging we've used has evolved over time.
Yes.
Like in the past, they used to call it the universal shield. I mean, we don't make it, the God team does, but it didn't feel right as we evolved because it's not actually a shield. It's it's actually like your own energy, and it's a vortex that's moving. It's evolving, that kind of thing. So, like you said, it's a different concept altogether. And when you talk about the octopus, it reminds me of my husband. Sometimes he'll walk into the grocery store or whatever, and he'll walk out upset or angry or sensitive, and or we'll just be literally driving, and he'll a car will pass and he'll just start getting some emotions, and he said, did you see that guy in the car? I'm like, no. He's like, well, he had a sourpuss face. He was pissed at me, and I'm like, seriously, you don't even know this person. And then I did say, to some degree, one time I said, I think you have your tentacles like in other people's
Yes.
business. It's none of your business. It doesn't, you don't have to do that. I mean, it's not
I
like if you're a healer, okay, there's a time and a place, and we specifically have this container where yes, your consciousness is expanded, your feelers are expanded, but it's for a purpose. And then afterwards, you kind of close the field and blah blah blah, right? But he's often doing it all the time, and so
I really think that's fascinating. That's the greatest example because that used to happen to me where I was just feeling I was living a non sequitur. Like everything that happened emotionally, an emotional non sequitur, because I'd be upset for no reason. And so then you look for something to blame, right?
right, that's what
You look
humans
for,
do,
that's right. Why am I feeling like this?
right?
And it's really just because you're wearing someone else's emotions. So the first thing, I had a client the other day, and our first session, she was having a lot, she had been estranged from her daughter. And the daughter
Mm,
didn't want to talk to her. She couldn't see her grandkids. She was really devastated about it.
yeah.
And so spirit was guiding me. See, this is how the high sensitivity and the spirit connect, because I use my connection to direct the flow of the conversation. So spirit is telling me which direction to go, and I can rely on that to be useful. So I taught her about the psychic octopus, and I said, this woman is large, large voice, large presence. Just everything about her is large. Her love energy is huge, right? It's like a going into a wind tunnel.
Yep.
And they said, your octopus is so far out and you have so much love energy. And love energy is the most powerful energy there is. So you're basically knocking your daughter on her butt every time you try to talk to her.
Yep.
So reel it in. be in your love energy, be in your high vibration, but don't be going that way.
Yes. Yes.
3 days later, she called me. She said 4 hours after our conversation, her daughter called her. She's been seeing her daughter every week and taking care of the grandkids since.
Oh,
So
that's
this says,
beautiful.
she said, because all I do is recognize that I don't have to be putting it out. Now,
Yes.
for your husband, this is the red coat. I love this story. I have this beautiful red coat with a black velvet collar that I really love. And so I use it as my example. Let's say you go into a restaurant and you wear your red coat, favorite coat, right? And you check it at the door. And then when you go to leave, you get your red coat and you leave. You go home. 3 months later, someone calls you and says, hello, I think you have my coat. And you're like, I don't think so. This is my coat. It's my favorite coat. It fits me. It's my size. It
Right.
has the same buttons. You know what I mean? It is my coat. And the person says, no, I really think it's my coat. And you're getting annoyed. And you say, I don't want to talk about it. It's my coat. She says, do me a favor and look in the pocket. I left a little metal angel or something, whatever it is, in the pocket, down in the corner. And you do, and you find it. And you say, wait, how could this be your coat? This is how it is when we are taking on other people's feelings. So if your husband's octopus is trolling about, he's picking up something and then wearing it. But
Mm-hmm.
it feels like ours. That was
Yep.
one of the hardest things I had to
Yep.
learn. That wasn't mine.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, like all the time. It's like reminding, like, are you sure? It's, and one of our protocols in Topeka healing is called whose stuff is it?
Yes, yes. And how to differentiate. So I know you do a lot of muscle testing, and I have a process that's it's not exactly muscle testing. It's identifying where your energy lives in your body and knowing when you're not in it. So my energy happens to live in my left lower abdomen. That's Heidi energy. And I don't know why it's there. It could be in your, in your nose, in your toes, but my energy lives there. And when I'm not there, I know it. And so then I do the reeling in, and then I begin to understand. It doesn't matter why I'm not in at that moment. What matters is that I'm not fully embracing that. And then I can't access my perception. So I like to think of intuition as perception now. I'm calling people highly perceptive individuals because I think sensitivity has a lot of negativity that goes along with it. People see it as
Right.
weakness, right?
Right. They say, "Oh, stop being so sensitive," or "You're too sensitive."
Oh,
No one ever says, "Stop being so perceptive."
right, right.
Like
And
perceptive is like a positive term.
that's right. And so recently I really thought, oh,
I
if
like
only
that.
I, thought this a few months ago, I would have put it on my book. But, we always go back. But the idea of goes right along with abilities. Perception is an ability. And if you can trust it, and we are the ones teaching people to trust it. That's why I agree with you. We're saving humanity. We're the ones, the highly perceptive people who care about other people, but who can identify with compassionate detachment so that they do not become a mess themselves and deteriorate.
Absolutely.
We're the ones who are saving this planet. And I agree with you. There are so many more high sensitives than we have believed. It was 20% when Elaine Freud talked about it. It was, we could call it 30. I think that actors and engineers, people, scientists stuck in research labs, sports, okay, they're all focused individuals who learn how to be motivated, but they also often fall apart, right? They become addicted to drugs or alcohol. They need rehab. They have burnout. Why? because they're not looking at their sensitivities, their innate abilities, as a parallel indicator of who they really are. And they resist it. What you resist not only persists, what you resist keeps you from developing the abilities you need to be strong and empowered in the world. That's basically it in a nutshell.
Boom.
Boom! I felt that energy just going right through.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it is so true. And I have a funny story about one of my kung fu friends. We're like students in my husband's, Kwoon before COVID and everything. We used to practice together. Anyway, so he's not exactly, touchy feely kind of person, and so I would consider him a quote unquote non-sensitive. So I was experimenting one day. We were doing chi sao, which is like an exercise in this Wing Chun kung fu, and we were like doing this thing together. So we're touching each other, right? And he was, his right arm was doing an incorrect move. So
Yes.
instead of telling him, I was the elder student, but I could have just verbally told him. What I actually said was I did it in my mind. And I said, lift up, lift up your hand or lift up your elbow, right? And within like a few seconds, he corrected it. And then I was so shocked and so amazed and so happy that I stopped doing what we were doing. I'm like, I said, "Oh my gosh, you heard me." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "I just told you telepathically that your right arm was dropping and you just fixed it." And I was like, "I never knew you could do it." Right. And he was like, "Okay." But it was like he was a non-sensitive, but
Yes.
even my dad, who is, was conditioned as like non-sensitive male, like, you just don't feel, you don't reveal your emotions, yada yada, right?
Yes.
Now he's shifted and changed, and to be like, like openly telling people, I'm going through this cancer treatment, da da da, would love your prayers, thank you so much, and receiving the prayers and being in gratitude. And I was like, wow, what did you do with my dad? This is amazing, you know? So we still disagree on things, but it was just amazing how the so-called non-sensitives are kind of shifting, changing, and becoming more what we would call sensitives. It's
Yes,
exciting.
well, and here you go, because the ripple effect of our abilities really does have an effect on the world. It doesn't just affect my little world or your little world and how we manifest, but it definitely, just like my client, she didn't do anything. She didn't have a conversation with her daughter. She didn't talk to her. She didn't try to convince. She changed herself and her perception of what was going on, and it literally changed her entire life.
I love it. I just
Yes.
love these examples. And it's so funny. I have another funny story for you. And I think it's similar, the lady you were talking about, right? So when we went to Marineland, this was in Canada, we got a chance to, at that time, it was many, many years ago, I was so excited to see the beluga whales they had. At this point, I'm not too happy about them being in captivity. But anyway, at the time, I was very excited to touch them, right? So I'm seeing person after person after person, the beluga whales coming, the little kids, they're touching them and they're taking a picture, and my friends, everything. I was so excited, like over the top excited. So it's my turn, and I bend down. Beluga whale comes, I touch it, and it leaves. And I'm almost like heartbroken, right? Like it doesn't like me. And then I was like, oh, wait, my energy was so strong and so out there, like, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love it. It's like a little kid, 3-year-old's like, oh my God, stop kissing me. You know what I mean? It's like, and then I was like, okay, tone it down. Tone it down. So
Yes.
I literally did what you were talking about, like bring in your tentacles. Like I toned down my energy. I still had the love there, but I
Yes.
toned it down. It came back, and I was able to touch it, and it was all fine. And that's happened to a couple of times where I've like little sensitive babies, like
Yes.
I'll come close to them and they start crying, and but I and my same thing with my mom. My mom's an earth angel, and so her energy is humongous,
Yes.
so it's too much. It's too
Yes.
much. And then now I know, like what you're talking about is like, like bring it back.
Right.
You don't have to be
What
that.
great validation that is, right? How perfect. The whale is this perfect example. I had a 5-year-old. This was way back when, before I knew what was going on, and my husband had just died. She would run away from me. She would
Oh,
literally leave the room because she could feel the pain body.
Oh, okay, okay.
So she was a very highly sensitive kid.
Gotcha.
She felt my pain and she couldn't be around it.
Mm,
And over time, I began to realize how important it is to recognize um, it's not about, I don't go around thinking and worrying what other people will think of me or how they will perceive me. I only think about how good I can feel in my own energy, and how when I do that, I am putting something out in the world that can really change things. I am putting out pure loving intention. Oh, and here's another thing. When you talked about healers and people who do this kind of work, I work a lot with nurses, occasional doctors, um, physical therapists, massage therapists, and they're always saying, I need to feel, I need to use my intuition, and I need to feel what my client or patient is feeling in order to help them. So they come to me with a lot of pain, mental, emotional, and physical, because they'll go to work on someone and they'll get this intuitive hit that says, work on this person's neck, there's a lot of pain. And then they'll feel the pain in their own neck. And they're afraid to give that up because that's their guidance. But in reality, if you know you're drawing information from source, most of the time for me, it's a specific, it's either a whole spirit team or a specific entity, person, dead person, basically. But they don't need to do that. I want my information to come directly from source. Give me the information, flow through me, but I don't need to wear that coat. I don't need to take on that energy so that I feel the pain or the distress. And once you do that, it goes away and you could still be helpful. I don't, I feel my clients' fear and pain, but I don't feel it as my own. I recognize it and I understand it, but I can help because I'm not taking it on myself. I used to be the one in tears. I'd be a
mhm.
basket case right along with them. You and I can't help people if that's what happens to us.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm sure this question is going to come up, so I might as well ask you right now. So, and you may have a completely different perspective from me, and that's completely fine too. So, some of my students who are probably the most sensitive of the sensitives, that a proportion of them we figured out that because of their quote unquote responsibilities in this human body in this lifetime, they're light beings that used to not have a body and now they have a body. Sometimes that can be a little tricky to operate the body because they're literally beaming with so much light, and every time we go through some sort of evolutionary ascension process, they're first. They're the
Oh,
fastest, which is the least comfortable to be that fast, right? To evolve that quickly. So, we've worked on various different things to kind of maybe dial down some of that sensitivity, or, dial down. I know it sounds terrible to say dial down the empathy, but excess empathy, that kind of thing, so they can at least function in their daily life. And as we do the work, it does help. But at sometimes we get the message that their purpose isn't necessarily to be what their minds tell them, which is, I need to be perfectly functional in this job, and I want lots of energy and be able to have Thanksgiving dinner for 25 people. Sometimes they get the message, well, you're you're here to be. You're here to resonate the frequency of love. And I know you wish not to have pain or not to empathize with these millions upon millions of other beings that are similar to you. It's not like, sorry, it's your job, but it's sort of like, well, how can you reperceive this as okay? So I guess that part of me was like, oh, we should control it, and not take on other people's stuff when it's inappropriate. But we're getting some messages that it is appropriate for them to have a what we call a collective healing experience, which is not always comfortable. Like they're almost witnessing it, and they may or may not have to do anything, but just to witness. So just would love some perspective and comments from your point of view.
yes, yes. I love that. The first thing is that one of the messages the spirit world is always saying to me is, well, there are two that are coming to me right now. One is uncomfortable is not necessarily bad. And the other is what looks like a duck and quacks like a duck is not always a duck. So what they're, and this is the reason that my book is called Elevating Your HSP-ness, right? Because it can't be, life can't really run successfully, I have found, if you're spending your energy doing this dial down. So how do you embrace and then elevate? Why would I want to elevate something that's causing me distress? So my perspective is I'm not. I know I want to live in a higher frequency. When I'm there, I am in less distress. So how am I going to get there? I want to elevate and amplify my perception, my ability to perceive straight from source to my gut, to my heart, to my spirit, so that it's not the other humans around me that are having this negative effect. Because if I'm amplifying, I'm not amplifying my empathy so I'm feeling them. What I'm amplifying is my own connection with source, so that whatever happens, I am maintaining that. Grounded isn't really the right word for me. That alignment. That's one of my favorite words, because I feel this alignment. And I know when you do muscle testing, I do this yes and no thing that I teach people. When I get a yes, I feel energy going whoosh. And when I get a no, it's like this numb dead zone that goes horizontally.
Yeah, I have a course called internal muscle testing, so that's very
Yes,
similar. Yeah.
yes, I read about that and I loved it, because that's what we really have to rely on. And it's so instantaneous. So that's what I recommend for people who are just on that constantly. That was me, constantly on that edge. I'm not saying I'm necessarily a light being, but Randy told me we're all vacationing angels. So, and that's where this book came from, The Gateway Cafe, which is a story about a misfit. It's kind of autobiographical in that sense, but she's tall and redheaded and thin and plays basketball. And I was not tall, dark hair, played the flute. And so we have differences, but she travels interdimensionally. And she meets her dead grandmother in the in-between. And she goes up to the Gateway Cafe, which is in the up there, where she meets the angels who are deciding where to go on their next vacation as humans.
Yep.
So the question becomes, why would I choose this? Why would I choose to be a Jewish girl raised in Boston with a father in a wheelchair, who goes to Harvard and has a really, really hard time there functioning in that environment, who then marries and has, why would I choose this as a vacation? That's just crazy that I would choose that, right? It's not a vacation. From an angelic perspective, because we're getting to experience the senses of being human, right? The hearing and tasting, the sex and the ocean and the apples and all those things. That's why we want to be here, to evolve and to use what we have and our knowledge of that evolution in human form. When I remember that, I say to myself, I chose this. Now, how am I going to navigate it? I chose this lifetime. I'm still Heidi. Who is Heidi now? How can she navigate it in a way that's not only successful for me, but maybe will ripple out and have a ripple effect out into the rest of the planet? So working with people who are that sensitive and reminding them that they have incredible abilities to develop that will help them. Because that goes back to the fear, right? If I open up and develop my abilities, I'll die. Things will get worse. People will call me crazy.
Mhm.
I have a 92-year-old mother who, like your father, sounds like a little like, she doesn't want to hear from her husband who died. She doesn't want to, she doesn't want to go there. She, but she read my book, The
She
Gateway
did.
Cafe. She
Wow.
read The Gateway Cafe and she laughed all the way through it,
Oh.
especially since the dead grandmother in it is a take on my grandma, who was awesome. And over time, even though she doesn't want to have discussions with me about dead people, she has seen such a change in me that she said to me the other day on the phone, she was very upset about something, paperwork, she's having a hard time. And she said, I always feel better after I talk to you because you're always so calm and you really believe that things are going to be okay. And that's where we're trying to get to.
Mm.
That's it. So I think there's a lot of hope for the kinds of people you're talking about. Does that resonate for you? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And this particular client I'm thinking of, who's probably one of the most sensitives that I've ever worked with, and she is, like being starseed. She said to me one time, because I gave her a completely different perspective, because a part of her human psyche was still like, well, I can't be productive.
Yes.
Right now I'm feeling all this stuff and I don't know why my body's changing minute to minute, second to second. This is crazy town, right? But we ended up, having this conversation with Source about what's going on, and come to find out it's, for lack of a better word, symptom of an evolutionary process that light being starseeds are going through. That's a very positive thing. The ability to morph our form, because we're truly light, and the
Yes.
recognition that we are truly light. And so after hearing that perspective, she was like, I think in some ways feeling better about the situation, not that their situation really changed so much, like in terms of what she's feeling, because she just wanted to, on some degree, understandably, want to just turn it
Yes.
off. Can we just please turn it off? Can we please turn it down? Can we, and then having that other perspective that, oh wow, I'm going through this evolutionary change and I'm leading the change, actually, and that life isn't just about, oh, I feel better today or I have more energy so I can be more productive, but it's bigger than that. It's bigger
Right.
than that.
And
And
that
so
we can lead that.
yes,
We are no
yes.
longer the ones who are following, just crawling along. We are leading it. And
Mhm.
to be proud of that and to feel sound in that, even if it's not always easy. I mean, we all have issues, right? Uh, I have a client who used to feel every person who got killed on the planet.
Wow. Okay. That sounds
I mean,
like
can you
fun.
imagine?
Not.
You know, and she was convinced that, I mean, she was reclusive, she could barely exist. And we can't always address every issue. She's still highly sensitive and she still feels a lot, but some tools can really help you address things enough so that you can live in the world and be
Mhm.
productive. And she learned how she was spending all her time trying to block it out, like we were talking,
Ah, okay, okay.
right? She couldn't. So it was like people knocking on her door all the time and breaking in, and she just spent her time saying no, no, no. And this way, opening the portal of conversation to
Mm.
the world to say, no, we're not looking at sensitivity like that anymore. We are celebrating this perception we have. We are uplifting the world. And
Mhm.
I don't need you to agree with me, because I know it and you know it. And you're going to be drawn. Everyone listening to this podcast is drawn because of the words light warrior, high sensitivity. These are things that people want to know about, plus the afterlife and how it contributes, that connection between source and who you are as a light being here to do
Mhm.
whatever work you're supposed to do.
Right, and it's really neat that you kind of change in your mind, highly sensitive person to highly perceptive, right? Like because sensitivity, like you said, has a negative connotation. Perception has a positive connotation of anything, or
Yes.
at least neutral, right? So literally today, I was saying to a client, again, whatever source was guiding to say, it literally said the one thing that she could do is to change her perception of herself. Like literally the word perception was jumped off the page. Like it was, yeah, it was like, and of course I love the idea of it. It was just interesting how that came up today, like,
Yes.
just hours before we spoke. Now, where can people get a copy of your book? Because I think just even that thing you told about earlier, like the contract thing, that's worth its
Yes.
weight in gold.
Yes,
So,
it is. It is. Changed my life. I have 3 books that are on my website. Crossing the Rubicon, the one that I wrote with my dead husband when he first woke me up that night. The Gateway Cafe, which is the novel, and it's visionary fiction, but 14-year-olds to 92-year-olds, obviously, it's so much fun. And it talks about being a vacationing angel. So I think it puts everything that we're talking about in a perspective.
okay.
And then elevating your HSP-ness. My website is my name, HeidiConnolly.com. So that's really easy. And I think people need a spectrum. If you're a little interested and you want to explore a couple of these tools, yeah, buy a book on Amazon too. Of course, they're all on Amazon, right? If you want to go in a little more deeply, I have an 8-module course I just finished, and it's also on my website available. And it's $3.99, but people get 20% off after this podcast for 3 days. So they can, anything they get on my website after this podcast will be 20% off.
Wow.
Yes, for 3 days. So, but the
Amazing.
course includes guided meditations with integrated spirit guided music. So I am guided by spirit to play the flute, record. I'm given a purpose for the music, and it's encoded with frequencies to heal on whatever cellular level that person needs, on all planes, levels, and dimensions. So to stop smoking, fibromyalgia, it helps people with sugar problems, all of those things. So the guided meditation in these modules integrates whatever they've heard and processed in the module.
Mm.
So they can just integrate it. It bypasses human resistance, is what I'm trying to
Right.
say.
Yes.
Okay, so the course is on there and that. And of course, if people want to work with me, that's just the most awesome, right? And they can book a session directly on my website, because I love doing that. I do Zoom. I'm in Olympia, Washington
Hmm.
now, but of course I do Zoom and in-person sessions and phone sessions, because energy, as we know, energy flows, and you don't have to be there in person.
Right. Yeah. Non-locality, it's called, I guess, in
That's right.
quantum.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So it's HeidiConnolly.com, and we'll put that link underneath the video and where the radio show is posted as well. So everyone will know where to contact
Fantastic.
Heidi. Yeah. And I just want to come back a little bit to what you were saying earlier about the unique energetic signature, or
Yes.
what I've sometimes heard referred to as the home frequency, or who you really are, or that frequency or vibration that makes you who you are. And the way in my book that we talk about, although we don't necessarily talk about the way you talk about it, but it feels really similar, is when we do the stillness through observing internal movement,
Yes.
and we're feeling the energy in the body and being fully present to whatever's going on in the body. When you were talking about, hey, Heidi's over here in this hip, or you know what I mean? It's very similar to that. So our being fully aware, because a lot of sensitives don't want to be in their bodies, right? Because
Right.
it's uncomfortable. So we're literally doing the opposite, is purposefully just observing with no judgment what's in the body. In that way helps, it seems, that people vibrate at their home frequency. And sometimes negative stuff just automatically clears or not,
Clears.
doesn't bother you.
Yes,
Yeah.
I loved that system that you have. And what I find is, okay, so there's the thought, the belief, the emotion, and the sensation, right? And the manifestation in the body. Well, it's by going into an emotion a lot of people talk about that, but I never found it helpful because I just felt more of the emotion and I didn't know how to
Okay.
process it out. But if I go into the sensation, what I do is called
Yes.
couch talk. And so I guided from spirit. I sit the energy on the couch and we
Ooh,
talk to the energy. So I become the energy and I talk to the energy.
okay.
So I am the energy of fear. I am red. Oh, I'm a red box. Well, what's in me? Oh, a mouse. Well, can the mouse come out? No, the mouse doesn't want to come out. I mean, we literally have conversations that are guided with whatever energy we're dealing with.
Yeah.
But first, it takes, I feel it in my chest. I feel it in my head. I feel it in
Yeah.
my shoulders. Where do I feel it? What does it look like? What is it saying to
Yeah.
me? And the amazing things that come out from that.
It is amazing.
It's amazing. I had a
It's a
fear.
great process.
It's a great process. I had a fear tell me it was afraid of dying. So I said, why are you here? I'm afraid of dying. I said, how can you be afraid? Your fear. How can you be afraid of dying? And I asked it, are you willing to transform? And it said, as long as I'm still here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So just like water transforms into a gas, steam, right? This fear was willing to transform as long as I didn't kill it. In other words, it
Yes.
would become another consciousness.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
it was
It's
it was
isn't that
miraculous.
beautiful? It's
Miraculous.
it is so beautiful. And not that long ago, different spiritual traditions and things like that for negative energies would actually bind negative energies or banish them somewhere or something like that. It never really resonated with me, because for me it was like, well, why can't we heal them, right? Like if that's and if that's okay with source, kind of thing.
Right,
So
transmute them, right?
exactly, exactly. So
Yeah.
whether that be so-called an overgrowing candida or fungus in the body or parasite or whatever it is, people, what is it that humans tend to think? They think, I got to kill this virus, right? I got to kill this fungus. I got to get rid of it. I hate it, And literally when COVID happened, oh boy, I said it now on YouTube, but anyway, when that happened, at some point, let's just say the toxicity of the thing, um, we did a healing, it went down, and then after some time, it went up, and I'm like, that's strange. We did a healing on it. Why did the toxicity of that thing go up? And the answer was very interesting, and it's something obviously I needed to learn at the time. It said human negative thought forms.
Yes.
Human negative thought forms of I hate you, kill
Yes.
you, I got to get rid of you,
Yes.
literally was distorting the thing to become more problematic for humans because
And
we were
and
fighting it.
mutating into
Yeah.
different forms that couldn't be killed.
Well, and the thing is it's a bioweapon. So,
Yes. Yes.
um, and
Well,
so then
wait
I
to
did
hear
another
this.
healing.
Wait to hear this because I can't forget to tell you this. I was listening to some meditation and the guy was talking about the meaning of the word COVID.
Oh yeah, that's a loaded.
So, right, co is from the Latin, which means together, shared. Vid is from the Sanskrit, meaning
Um,
awakening,
mm,
wisdom. COVID is a shared wisdom
awakening.
and awakening. That speaks to exactly what you're talking about,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because it's not, hey, kill.
right.
It's like cancer. We have to kill it. No,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? We have to work with its consciousness.
Hmm.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. And so we actually ended up doing literally having to protect it from human negative thought forms, which normally it's the other way around.
Yes.
Protecting humans from others' negative thought forms and transmuting that. But in it's just so funny because I don't think there's another healer on the planet who at least publicly said I had to help heal COVID because it
Oh,
was
I could
getting
not agree
damaged from
more.
human thought forms. Anyway.
Yes. And
So
a
thank you
lot
for
of my,
understanding that.
I do because a lot of my recordings, as a matter of fact, they may say like Lost at Sea is to help with alcohol addiction.
Mm,
But I call it that so people understand what it is, just like the label of HSP. It's
Right.
it's a helpful label,
right.
ease of access.
Right.
But it's not, it's to transmute the energy of what we're talking about and give it a different dimensionality and work with it on a conscious level, you know, that's not saying you have to stop, you have to stop, you have to stop.
Right.
That's not a way to raise something into a higher frequency.
Exactly.
That's just the
Exactly.
opposite.
Exactly. Yeah. So I love that. So you and I are on the same page for that.
Yes.
So any so-called negative elements in our reality, if it is our role to, hold it in the space of love, in the bubble of love, and transmute it, because at the end of the day, my perception is that we are all part of the same thing. We're just little fractals, different experiences and perceptions of the one. So whether one is a demon or COVID or I don't know, Hitler or whatever. It's just
Yes.
another aspect of the one having a vacation, on the planet, to
Yes.
have an experience because experience is the thing. So yeah, it's comfortable, uncomfortable. Those are human labels. It's just an experience. And so the last time I had the so-called flu symptoms, I actually said to myself day one, I'm like, fever, body aches. Wasn't that interesting? I haven't had that in a while. It's a long time. So I'm going to enjoy it. I'm literally going to enjoy my flu. So I just said, I'm going to enjoy this, right? So I'm like, in the bed, my staff is out there canceling everything. And I was like, oh, isn't this interesting? Look at my body. Wow. Look at the fever. Wow. My body is doing great. It's doing exactly what it needs to do. And I'm really tired and I'm just sitting in front of the TV watching a movie. I'm like, I'm just enjoying my flu symptoms. It was hilarious, but I just
It
felt it was the most
is.
enlightened thing I could do at the time.
The last time that happened to me, I just kept saying, you're having a shift. You're having
Yeah.
a shift.
Yep.
You can't get out of bed. You're having a shift.
Yep.
When people ask you, how are you feeling?
Yes.
Say,
Yeah.
I have the flu. It's
Right.
probably COVID. Oh my God.
I know.
Right? No, I'm having a shift here.
Yes. No, we were joking. So I said, oh, I'm making up new stuff. I'm saying to my staff, I'm like, I'm having an unplanned massive cleanse.
Yes.
Yes, I'm having unscheduled massive cleanse. And even when people were like, "Oh, your throat it still hurt, does it still hurt? You're still sick." I'm like, "Oh, I'm not sick." I said, "I'm healing really well. I'm healing very deeply, in fact." Right, and that's
Yes.
that's why it's taking so long. So, and it's just interesting, like how firmly am I perceiving it from that point of view. I'm not saying it's good or bad point of view, but the point of view that works, right? Because that works for
Right.
me. And if
Right.
it didn't, then I would maybe change a perception, but it works for
And
me.
occasionally it can be challenging to get into that space. But
For
instead of
sure.
saying, someone said to me the other day, I hate when this happens.
Oh,
And
right. That's a
right.
common.
And so the word hate has a very high, low frequency, very extreme low frequency, right? So I really don't like to use it. And I said, well, can I give you an example? Let's see. I hate green beans in my, next to my meal. And I would say, well, I love when they don't put green beans there. I mean, just
Yes.
anything to flip it. That's a dumb example. You
Right.
know what
No,
I
no,
mean?
no, totally. That
Anything, because
the
this
energy is
fighting
so
intense.
different, right, between fight and we started using the word preference,
Yes.
right? I prefer, da 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 or whatever. And it really changes the energy and the
It
fight is no longer there. The resistance is
And you're stating something positive. I
lowered.
prefer something. You're actually
Right,
stating,
right.
I prefer to feel safe. I prefer to feel secure. I prefer to feel this. Freedom from is not the same as freedom to,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
And I
Yeah.
saw this video of an octopus that my sister sent me. I had never seen this before. The tentacles went out and then grew and grew and blew up to the point where it was like one big balloon tentacle. I'm going to have to send you this video.
Yes, please send it
It's
to
30
me. That
seconds.
is
I have never seen that, and I've seen a
amazing.
lot of octopus videos because that's my thing, right? But honestly, it was like
Hmm.
protection, a protective device that was so natural coming out of reeling in your tentacles being one
Oh,
in alignment, at the same time, protection all around you. It was like the perfect metaphor for what we're
wow. Oh, I
talking
can't
about
wait to
right
see
now.
that. All right.
It
I
gives me
look
chills.
forward to seeing that. I keep
Yes,
changing my
yes,
language.
yes, I
I look
can't wait. Right.
forward to seeing that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. Sometimes I use AI to help me write some stuff because sometimes I blurt it out and I'm like, no, that doesn't make any sense at all. So can you make this more clear, right? And but then it'll say, don't miss out on,
Yeah.
or don't forget. I'm like, ugh. And then I go, can you please reword this without the don't forget part? And it's
Did
just
you
so funny.
struggle? Did you struggle with naming your book? Because people were wanting me to, I got a lot of input. If you're feeling really bad, if everything is really horrible, talking about that. And I wanted to call it elevating, amplifying, it's your
Oh yeah, yeah.
superpower,
That's
right?
because yeah. Well, the thing is, you were future pacing the energy before the energy was there. So
Yes.
my mentor, who's also my business mentor, Marcus, talked about that as well. He says the energies are shifting so that people in the past, when we would do sales calls or whatever, it'd be like, here's your pain point, here's your pain point, here's your pain point. We're gonna connect to your pain point, So then here's your pleasure point, right? And now more people are shifting to the yeah, pain point, yeah, whatever. What's my purpose?
Yes.
That they're going to a different place, and they're going to the aspirational aspect rather than trying to cure a pain. Now that
That's
still
right.
sells if you like do Facebook ads or whatever. You can actually do the testing. I mean, to
Yes.
some degree, that the pain points still sell, but the people are starting to shift, and even the HSP people are starting to shift, so they're less likely to resonate with the pain, bad pain, and more sort of like, okay, let's focus on solutions here, right? So the whole world, thanks to those of us that are in the field like you and I, are shifting towards the solution based, if you will,
Yeah.
reality rather than pointing out this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, right? And so that's a really positive change that I see as a thing that is happening around the world.
Yeah, I agree with that. I really do. And I call my newsletter, for example, down to earth spirituality for everyday life, because I want people to understand that this is concrete information. There's nothing woo woo about it. I mean, we do woo woo stuff. It's true in some people's terms, but to me, it's just ways to live in the
Right,
reality of the
right.
earth plane, right? But do it in a way that encourages and gives you new perspective on it, because without
Mhm.
that, I don't think it's really possible for highly perceptive individuals to function well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And at the end of the day, it works.
It
See,
does. That's
yeah,
the point.
yeah, it's not that it's good or bad, or you should or
It
shouldn't do
works.
it. It works. If it works, keep doing it. Now, I'm not saying it's going to work for everyone because everyone's individual and they have their own path, right? But it's like, try it out. If it works, then keep doing that. If it doesn't work, then I'm sure there was something else you'll be led to.
And the amazing thing is, I think the work that we do, you see very fast results.
Hmm.
I mean, for this woman to go home and have her life change
Yeah.
in 4 hours, for a 94-year-old client I had um, whose husband had passed 4 years ago, she was still grieving. But after that, the grieving sessions, and after that part, what was really at the core was her lack of self-esteem.
Yep.
She had a very competent,
Yep.
successful woman who had run organizations, right? And so giving her this ability to understand why she was here, how she was taking on feelings from other people, it shifted her whole intention for
Mhm.
living her life. To see that happen so quickly is why I am so honored to do this work,
Jazzed to do it, honored to do it, love to do it. That's
right?
wonderful. No,
Totally, because it changed my life.
yeah.
And here I am, right? Here
Mm,
I am to tell the story. So,
I love it. Well,
yes.
Heidi, we're coming to the end of our time together. It's been a true delight being with you today. And
Thank
for
you.
our listeners and folks watching, HeidiConnolly.com is where you can find Heidi. We'll put that link underneath this show notes, the video notes, and remember Heidi's got her 3 books. You can book a call with Heidi if you feel like you'd like to work with her one-on-one. Of course, she has that fantastic new course as well. And then once we release our podcast, Heidi will give our listeners a nice 20% discount. Thank you so much. I was not expecting that. That is
Yes,
awesome.
sure. Mhm.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we want to thank you, Heidi, and thank everyone for listening in. Until next time, big love to you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. All right.